2022 where Death Holler brought us Season 3, Slash or Pass. It became the classic horror film podcast of its time. And now Death Holler brings us the most shocking season ever.
10 more parts.
Season 4, Dead or Dead.
Yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up.
Imagine, if you will, that one of the hosts is absolutely terrified of zombies.
So, what's the plan? Bash him in the head, that seems to work out.
No, except the fact there is no escaping this horror. Death Holler brings back the dead. Remember, when you're in Death Holler, listener discretion is advised. With hospitality like this, you'll never want to leave. We hope you stay alive.
When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Death Holler. I'm your host, the Reverend Dr. Death, and joining me from her freezer hidey hole is my co-host, Llareyna. Is that freezer keeping the zombies away, Llareyna?
You know, I have discovered that I don't even need the freezer anymore. My cold hands and cold heart, keep them away just fine.
They accept you as their own at this point.
That or they don't like the cold touch. It's got to be the cold. Something about the cold. I don't know.
Today we continue our April Fool's zombie coverage, going with a few different films. We have the sequel to Zombieland, the appropriately titled Double Tap, up for review. We were following this with a nostalgic throwback to a beloved group of meddling kids and their misfit dog and Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, and we were rounding it all out with a more recent addition to the horror comedy genre with Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. So grab those Scooby snacks, avoid the trail mix, and get ready for a fun zombie killing time. But first, if you're enjoying the podcast, we would appreciate it if you would take time to like, comment, and subscribe on whatever podcast platform you prefer. It helps us get more visibility on podcast listings and helps us grow. Also, consider following us on social media. You can find us on TikTok and Twitter under Death Holler Pod, and we can be found on Instagram and Facebook under Death Holler Podcast. We appreciate everyone who listens and hope you enjoy the show. Zombieland Double Tap from 2019. Tagline. There is none. I could not find a tagline whatsoever.
I mean, I only looked for like a millisecond, but it literally, you look it up and it's like, maybe you would like these taglines from Zombieland. And it was all the ones we've previously discussed.
Or if you even go to IMDb, where I usually get the taglines, it's like, this page is, there was nothing found. Would you like to go to something else? It's like, okay.
Was there nothing even on like the DVD cover?
No, because I think it was literally it's either the image of them together, which is most of the marketing for the movie, with Zombieland Double Tap over top of it, or it was the burning planet, which is what they had on the first one too. But now instead of just saying Zombieland, it says Zombieland Double Tap. That's it.
Okay, so on the DVD, well, from what I'm looking at right now, and I am thinking that this was a joke, but it's on multiple sites. It's on multiple sites. Multiple people sell, Walmart, Amazon, Target, etc. On said DVD cover, it says just as good as Zombieland.
That's definitely saying something.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, excuse me. Goodness me. Apologies. Let me redact a little bit. Just as great as Zombieland.
well, there you go. I guess that's the tagline we're going to go with for the movie.
Yes.
Directed again by Ruben Fleischer, written by Rhett Reese, Paul Wernick, and this time also Dave Callahan. The two previous writers were from the original Zombieland. Music by David Sardi. It was made for a budget of between 42 and 48 million, but it made 125.2 million US dollars.
Okay. So is that a slightly higher budget than the first one?
I want to say it was.
Okay, with the same. Well, hold on. I'm going to go back to it right now. But that's not bad at all, especially for a sequel.
Yeah, the payout on it, I mean, that box office ensured that it was enough of a success that, unlike when we did Happy Death Day 2, which, it didn't lose money necessarily, but it did not light up the box office. So, now there might not ever be a part 3 to that. If they want to come back for a third one, Sony is definitely going to be there ready to, finance it, I would think, after that, last turnout.
Okay. So, Zombieland, from what you show, 23.6 million. So we'll say just under 25 million. And
so about double the budget.
Yes, and had a box office of 102. So it's about 25 million less. So it's like they added.
It that extra money paid the difference in the budget.
Yes,
literally.
Yes. Exactly that. So not bad.
No. Again, and I'm not going to go into a whole lot with the main players on this one, but we've got Woody Harrelson back as Tallahassee. This time he is, and I believe this is what he says he is, part Blackfoot Indian. Is that what he says?
I think so.
He's also fangirling Elvis throughout the movie, and he's still our zombie slayer, the kick-ass zombie slayer. We have Jesse Eisenberg playing Columbus again. He's still afraid of clowns.
Nothing's changed.
Surprisingly, he gets a lot of hot women in the zombie apocalypse for being as geeky and just cowardly and all that he is. Like, I don't know how he manages it, but
I know how. In the zombie apocalypse, any girl of any kind of cuteness at all has got to know that most of the guys they run into just look like scumbags, and he looks like the nice guy. And they're just like, oh, thank God.
That's true. And I guess Tallahassee, being who he is a good wingman, because they're like, well, there's two of you, and since I'm not getting good vibes from him, you're the one.
Yeah, so. Exactly. That's messed up, but it's true.
Emma Stone's back is playing Wichita. She's still afraid of commitment. That's the driving point of the movie, at least at the beginning. And that's, when we get to it, that's one of my biggest gripes about this movie, but we'll discuss it. Yeah. Abigail Breslin's playing Little Rock. She's all grown up and ready to leave the nest.
She's like her sister. They just can't sit still.
Yeah. Got to always get out there and, seek new horizons, apparently, for these two. Zoe Deutsch plays Madison. She's a new addition to the series. She proves that being brain dead in the zombie apocalypse is actually a defense mechanism.
Yeah, they want brains.
Even in this movie where they don't necessarily want brains, if you're mindless enough, they assume you're a homer and they just leave you alone.
Oh my God, the homers were killing me.
She was uncredited in a role in Amazing Spider-Man, which means that she was previously in another movie with Emma Stone. Oh. She was in Dirty Grandpa with Aubrey Plaza. She was in the movie Everybody Wants Some, which is like a throwback, nostalgic, I want to say it's either late 70s or early 80s type comedy or whatever, back when comedies were not dead. She was in a movie called Vampire Academy, and she was also in The Disaster Artist, which is actually pretty good. It's that where they made fun of the making of The Room or whatever, with Tommy Wiseau's The Room. Hello, Mark.
not
You need to watch that. You need to watch at least The Disaster Artist one time just to see how. I mean, I would argue The Room is worth watching, but even if you don't want to watch that shitty movie for how funny it is, The Disaster Artist is a good remaking of it. We have Ivan Yogia. I don't know how you say his name necessarily. Playing Berkeley, who is the pot-smoking pacifist hipster wannabe. And at least two of those things make me turn into Tallahassee and want to punch him in the face.
Oh, shit, 2019. I just came into some information about this Avon Jogia before you even continue. He dated fucking Zoe Deutsch.
He actually dated Zoe, okay.
Yeah, and they had been broken up for about 2 years by the time this movie happened, though. So very interesting.
Ooh. That makes that ending interesting since that's who she decides to go with.
Yeah. Anyways, continue.
He was in the Orphan Black secondary series called Echoes. It's a pretty good show about clones, not to spoil anything. That's kind of what it's about. Tatiana Maslany was the one that was in the original. I don't know if she was in the secondary series called Echoes. That was a good series of TV that had her in it. I would not recommend She-Hulk, though.
Oh, definitely not.
He was also in Shaft from 2019 with Sam L,
Okay. God, that was 2019?
Or no, it wasn't 2019. It was like I think I copied down that wrong. It was probably 2009 or something. It was like way earlier.
Yeah.
And then Resident Evil: Welcome to Raccoon City, which we'll be reviewing later on this season.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be seeing Ivan Jogia again playing Leon Kennedy, which is the biggest source of contention in that entire fucking movie because he was woefully miscast as that character, but he could have still pulled it off even though they did the race swapping stuff with him. It's just how they portrayed the character in the movie was fucking shitty compared to how he was in the games.
Yes.
Rosario Dawson plays Nevada, who is the Elvis Presley fan club badass. She was in a ton of shit. Lego Batman, Sin City, and the prequel. She's pretty hot in those movies. Most of the women in those movies are, though. However, they were made during Harvey Weinstein's preeminent, so it makes you wonder. It's like, what kind of shit went on behind the scenes?
He's got an eye for talent.
She is also in the current Star Wars stuff. She plays Ahsoka. Here's the thing. Rosario Dawson's actually a good actress. As evidenced in this movie, I actually like her in this movie a lot. But the way they make her play Ahsoka is atrocious. She's supposed to be like this emotionless Jedi, samurai type character. And it's like a charisma vacuum. It sucks all the joy out of anytime she's on screen.
Do you think it's because the Ahsoka we're used to seeing was a much younger version of Ahsoka because she was just
bubbly and
a Padawan, if you will?
Well, even if you go that route, I mean, and I do not like. I mean, this is a tangent, but I do not like the cranky, Luke that we get, Luke Skywalker that we get in the new movies.
Mm-hmm.
But and Mark Hamill in real life is a monster. I mean, he just kind of is. He's got a lot of issues and he has to vent them on the internet all the time. But he's still compelling in the movie, even if he is playing that cranky, I'm going to drink some alien's tit milk, and fuck off on an island. When he's on screen, you're drawn to him. But anytime Ahsoka's on screen, it's just like, okay, she's there. She's passively saying her lines. There's no emotion to any of it. It's like, and whenever, and she randomly smiles at times to show that she's not a robot. What are they doing with that character? I mean, even if you don't want her to be the same exact character and you want to say she grew up, there's a difference between, making the character, I mean, more adult-like and not bubbly and Annie, Sky Guy or whatever she calls, Anakin, versus what the robot that they're having her play in the new series. I don't understand it at all. I just don't think they can direct people, and they don't know what, and the current writers in Hollywood don't even know what human beings are anymore. So if AI starts to take over as far as the writing, it's not going to be much different in what we're getting, because we don't have humanity in any of our movies or TV shows anymore anyways.
It's scary to think that it could be better.
I will say this, though, Three Body Problem, for anybody who's seen that on Netflix, written by the same guys that made Game of Thrones, who also ran the show into the ground. But when they have something to go off of, i.e. the actual intellectual property, they can do actually good directing and stuff. So there's a lot of emotion that actually works in that show.
Interesting.
Not Star Wars.
Ahsoka acts like she has seen some shit. She probably has, but I mean, yeah,
I believe are you talking about Ahsoka or Rosario herself?
Maybe both.
Because I believe with Rosario being in the business as long as she has, and working with so many times for both Rodriguez and Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino during the Weinstein era, she's probably seen a lot of shit on the other side.
Yeah, that's true.
She was also in Haunted Mansion that we saw last year, 2023. She was the mom in that movie.
Feels like ages ago.
Yeah, she's decent in that.
Yeah.
I mean, she's not Ahsoka bad. I'll say that much. She's also in Daredevil on Netflix, the good Daredevil, the one before, She-Hulk showed up. And she was in Clerks 2 and Clerks 3. Now, she's pretty good in Clerks 2. Clerks 3, I don't know. That movie is its own thing. You want to go, I mean, for anybody who wants to go and watch it, Kevin Smith wanted us to cry like he does, like constantly, and that's what he made a movie for. Okay. And then she's also in Grindhouse from Death Proof. She's pretty fun in that little segment toward the end. I still, if we ever cover that, and I guess it'll be during Human Horror, because I mean, Kurt Russell, you can't not cover a movie with him in it if you can help it. I think that the first half of Death Proof, before they switch girls, is the better part. The second part's fun just for the action bits, but and the girls are fine. It's just, I feel like it's unnecessary. That's just my, point of view. It's like you see the same movie twice with just different characters.
Yeah. And I'm still trying to think, because there's a part of that goes into Alien season, or actually technically zombie season almost. Well,
that's you're talking about Grindhouse in general, which is Planet Terror, the first section. That movie was definitely zombie season, and I think that's how we're going to end this season, is with Death Proof. With Planet Terror. But Death Proof is an odd one. I really like the first half of it, but then whenever they and there's parts I like about the second half, but it feels like it's a whole other repeat of the first movie tacked on. Like if you were watching Evil Dead 1 and then somebody halfway through spliced in Evil Dead 2, which essentially is the same movie anyways, and you're like, I just watched this, and the first one was a horror and this one's a comedy, and it's like, yeah, that's what we did.
That's what you're getting.
Okay. Luke Wilson plays Albuquerque. He's totally not Tallahassee. He's not the Walmart Equate brand version of Tallahassee at all. And if you watched or if you listened to our last episode, you will realize that actually Albuquerque and Flagstaff were the names that were going to be for Tallahassee and Columbus before they changed them. Which I love that they included these guys. Luke Wilson's been in all of those Wes Anderson movies, like old school, like Royal Tenenbaums and Bottle Rocket. He's been in a ton of that stuff. Rushmore. So I didn't list all of them, but if it's Wes Anderson movie, he's probably in it. And I hate to say it, but that comedy it skirts right by me. I know Bill Murray's also in those movies a lot, but I watch them and I'm like, okay, I get it. It's a sarcastic, dry comedy. And I like sarcastic, dry British comedies, but these movies do nothing for me. There's a line that everybody quotes from Rushmore. It's got, and I can't remember the guy's name, Max, whatever, who, is in it, but he's the main character, and like Luke Wilson, I believe, is the character, shows up, and he tells the character, and he's dating the teacher that Max is like in love with, even though like he's only supposed to be like 15-year-old kid, so there's a weird thing there. But he looks at him and he's like, what do you do? And then Luke Wilson's like, I'm an OR nurse. And then Max looks at him, he goes, oh, are you? And that's supposed to be the comedy in the movie, folks. Like, I don't like, fine, you keep the movie. I mean, other people can say, no, it's the absurdist part of the stuff. It's like, I just don't get it. I never will. Comedy is just like horror. Some stuff just doesn't work. Moving along,
Yeah, he's in weird. Well, it's actually a movie that I like, but he's in this movie called Home Fries, and I think I still don't understand what that movie is fully about. But it's very, very, very your people. That is the most racist thing I've ever said on this podcast, and I've said some questionable things.
So what do you mean your people? Like, what's it about?
Okay, so they all have a twang, but I'm not sure which twang it is, so it's probably not even near, your neck of the woods. But okay, so this basic synopsis of this movie is Drew Barrymore is a pregnant girl, and she is being kind of investigated by these brothers who found out that their dad had a mistress and potentially got her pregnant. And they're doing this through their mom, who is psycho. It's a comedy, though, but it's got to be one of those Wes Anderson films because it's a weird comedy, a dramedy of sorts, if you will. Anyways, long story short, one of these brothers whose dad's baby is in that belly ends up with the girl. So that's pretty weird. I was looking to see if I could some of his movies or whatever to see if they were if that was anything that he might have been involved with. But like Life Aquatic with Steve Sisu or whatever. Like, I don't get them. Like, I've had people like, you don't love those movies. It's like, I don't. Like, I just don't. I mean, I'm glad people do. I mean, Wes Anderson's made a career out of them. But recently he made a movie called Asteroid City, which nobody liked. So even I think his shtick is getting a little stale at this point. Yeah.
Luke was also an old school back in the day, back when comedy, was in its prime, I guess. I did not need to see Will Ferrell naked in that movie.
No one did, but you know what? But that's what we got.
That's my boy. That's old Blue. He's also in 3:10 to Yuma, the 2007 Russell Crowe version. And he was actually in a horror movie called Vacancy, which is like a human horror movie, I think. So we might bring him back.
Is
for
that the one?
that.
I don't think that's it, but there is one that I keep telling you, we need to watch it. And it sounds... No, that's not it. Okay.
Kate Beckinsale's in that. Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, you're going to like that.
And then rounding out the cast, or the main cast, we have Thomas Middleditch, who's playing Flagstaff, who's totally not Columbus, not the Equate brand version. He was in The Wolf of Wall Street, Godzilla King of Monsters, the movie with Jeremy Renner, Tag. He's actually the main character on this animated show called Pen Zero, Part-Time Hero. Don't know what it is. Anybody with kids might. And we've actually previously had him on the show. He was in the movie The Final Girls.
Yeah.
He played the Shaggy-like brother in that movie. So
definitely recognized him.
I didn't, because he looks quite a bit different without the beard, and like I don't know, his face is fuller in this one. So he looks quite a bit like Jesse Eisenberg, to be perfectly honest.
Well, yeah, they definitely made him to look like it, but I don't know. He's got this goofiness to him that I was like, oh, it would be like even if Jesse Eisenberg, I don't know, played a character like, I don't know, someone from DC.
Oh yeah.
A more serious role.
Yeah.
You would still know it was Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah. Jesse Eisenberg's like, I mean, there's a lot of actors that are like that. Like, I mean, well, I don't know if I wouldn't say Woody's like that. Woody Harrelson can play different characters. I mean, because Tallahassee's way different than the character he plays and True Detective, but Jesse Eisenberg pretty much plays a variant version of himself in everything that he plays, which is not bad but he's always going to get typecast as that character because I don't think he can play outside of it.
Yeah, that's kind of sad for him, but
Synopsis: it's a decade on, and our 4 heroes from Zombieland have settled down and made a home for themselves in the White House, of all places. They have all formed a family, with Tallahassee playing father figure to Little Rock, and Columbus and Wichita living together in unmarried bliss. However, a good thing doesn't last forever, and our gang finds themselves splitting apart. This couldn't happen at a worse time, however, as a new form of zombie, the T-800, has made its way east from the plains and is a danger to everyone. With the addition of brain-dead Madison and a badass Nevada, Columbus, Tallahassee, and Wichita must make their way to Babylon to save Little Rock.
And that's it.
That's pretty much the plot of the movie.
And Babylon has to get mispronounced so many times in this film. And the song reference was made so many times.
My favorite thing is like when the different assumptions about why it's called Babylon, because when Little Rock gets there, she assumes that it's based upon the Hanging Gardens, and then he's like, no, it's based upon that song, Babylon. And then of course, when Madison gets there, everybody's like, why is it called Babylon? She's like, I love that song. It's like, yep. She would get it. She would. Quotes for the movie. Columbus starts us out again. Welcome to Zombieland. Back for seconds. After all this time, well, what can I say but thank you? You have a lot of choices when it comes to zombie entertainment, and we appreciate you picking us. I like that line because it's honestly true. There's so many zombie movies. If you came back for the sequel, that was a nice little, we appreciate your business.
Yeah. What is that? Breaking the fourth wall? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, for sure. Wichita: when you love something, you shoot it in the face so it doesn't become a flesh-eating monster.
She makes a good point.
Yep. In reference to Madison, who has ate the trail mix and now looks like a zombie.
Ugh, that was terrible.
She was actually terrifying, especially in the flashback scene where he sees her right before, or how she looks right before. Well, maybe it's even the first time whenever he, gets ready to shoot her, and then it pans away from it. Like she's vomiting up just like they do it. The whole thing. It looks like them.
And not only that, but we had seen right before that there was a zombie literally nibbling at her shoe, you know?
Yeah.
So it's did it make it through?
Well, that's the reason that scene works, is because, especially the first time I watched it, because you see it nibbling at her shoe. So you're like, oh, she's been bit, especially when she starts the sound or whatever. You're like, oh God. And our heroes are pretty smart. They're like, okay, she's turning. She's got to go.
Oh, yeah.
It's none of that stuff like The Walking Dead. It's like, oh, well, maybe if we keep her in a room, she won't totally break out and destroy half of the compound. God, they get so old, 3 or 4 seasons into The Walking Dead. It's like, no, shoot them, stab them, get rid of them. You're just going to lose them anyways, and then you're going to lose everybody else.
Yeah, and it's always a couple episodes in, and then it's usually part of the finale a little bit. Oh no, she's broken. Oh no, she's attacked 7 people. Oh no, they're going to attack people.
Yeah, we totally didn't see that happening from the person who got bit at the beginning of the season. They moved on, thankfully, from that in Walking Dead. And they turned it to political drama, which was even worse.
Oh, well, unfortunately, I moved on, too, and just didn't watch it.
Tallahassee. I have nothing against pacifists. I just want to beat the shit out of them.
In this kind of economy that they're in, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, same Tallahassee, same. Tallahassee dressed as Santa Claus. What would you like, little girl? A pony? And then Little Rock's, no, I'd actually like for you to stop calling me little girl. And then Tallahassee's like, well, technically you are little and you are a girl. And then Columbus just moves up, sits in Tallahassee's lap. Well, I'm not a little girl, but do you know what I would like? And then Tallahassee throws him off into the floor. I don't give a fuck what you like.
I love that so much.
Tallahassee, it's time to nut up or shut up. And then Albuquerque. That saying's very 2009.
How would you know?
It's a good reference to the fact of when the first movie came out.
Yeah.
I like it. Reporter to Bill Murray, who's being interviewed for Garfield 3, Flabby Tabby press junket. But the question is, why in the world Garfield 3? And the Bill Murray's like, can this just be between us? And the reporter's like, yes. And Bill Murray's like, drugs cost money.
Very pan-faced, too.
Wichita, don't listen to this guy. He's killed more celebrities than cocaine. Yes, Columbus has killed more celebrities than cocaine. It is sad.
There's no way he's killed more celebrities than cocaine. He's killed one celebrity
that we know of. He might have went through Hollywood killing a bunch of other ones that
is
had
true.
returned. We don't know.
Well,
we don't know this.
At least give us a snippet, an explanation, a little, guide to killing celebrities in Los Angeles.
I just love that scene because Nevada's like, if I find out
who
killed Bill Murray. Tallahassee, you know why she's still alive? Because zombies eat brains and she ain't got none. Which is funny because they don't eat brains in this universe, but it's a good it's a good throwback.
But what's also funny about that is it shows, he doesn't want to bring her along, and that's kind of an asshole thing to do. But you know what would be more of an asshole thing to do? Bringing her along so you can use her.
True.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
So I don't know which one is worse, though. I don't know. I feel like the girl version of Nut Up or Shut Up is Put Out or Get Out, because you're going to have to pay for someone to take care of you.
What, ass, gas, or grass?
Yeah.
Everybody pays.
Exactly. So, and let's be honest, this girl ain't getting none. She went for fucking, I almost said Albuquerque, Columbus.
Oh, speaking of that, the next thing I've got on here, Columbus pushes Madison away as she's kissing him. And then she looks at him. She's like, okay, look, I've been alone in the freezer for years. So either we're doing this right now or I'm biting the bullet and I'm doing the old guy. Honestly, in that moment, I don't blame Columbus necessarily.
No.
It's like, okay, because he doesn't know if Wichita's coming back.
Yeah.
He really doesn't.
It's slim pickings in these here times, and here you have a girl, doesn't even have to be a hot girl, but she is a hot girl, throwing herself at him.
Yeah, he even makes a comment that she's almost as pretty as 406.
Yes.
Which was a nice reference back to the first movie.
Definitely.
Madison, you guys, they are much more afraid of us than we are of them. And then Wichita, oh, that is not even remotely true.
If that were the case, you wouldn't have to fucking hide in a freezer.
Exactly. Madison, I'm really good at surviving. I carry a can of mace with me everywhere I go, and I can run really, 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 really fast. Probably because I used to do hot yoga and Soul Cycle.
Well, bitch, now you're doing cold yoga.
Columbus about Madison. Hey, come on. She's a living, thinking being, okay? And then they all look at him, and he's like, she's a living being.
Don't be a player hater. Not my favorite character, okay? But she survived, and that has to say something.
Well, even when they leave her to die in the woods, she goes all the way back, however far that is, to where the clown ice cream truck was. Well, there's zombies still around the whole entire way.
Oh, yeah.
She makes it all the way back there and then makes it all the way back. So she does have a lot of survival skills, whatever those are.
Yeah.
I do think that she's zombie camouflage. I don't think they really notice her, but
yeah. And not only that, I'm thinking that when she did find that clown car, she probably was still doing that,
She probably was the entire way. And they're like, okay, she's obviously just another zombie.
I really thought she became a zombie.
Jerry Lane would be seeking her out to see if he could find the zombie camouflage is all I'm going to say. Can we take whatever brain cells she's got and, make a virus or a vaccine out of it?
Apparently being hot is zombie camouflage. Because that's really all they have going for them, and pretending that they know things.
That's true. Tallahassee, they ain't got what we do. And in response to the fact that there's a horde of the T-800s coming toward Babylon, and Madison's like, guns? And then Tallahassee's like, we don't have guns. And Madison's like, what? Which is hilarious because she was there with them when they had to turn in all of their guns. Columbus, I feel sort of guilty. And then Madison's like, because of Jesus. And she's referencing the fact that he's got like papers covering up Abraham Lincoln's eyes. She thinks that's Jesus, or, you know, like, and she might just be referencing the fact that, you know, that he's that way or something. But then the funny part is she whispers, she's like, I know ways around that. And then she winks at him, hinting that she's done some backdoor action to get away.
Oh my God. The poop hole loophole.
Yeah. She's fully about that.
Oh my God.
At that moment, she's a keeper, I guess, you know, whatever.
She's putting out period, even if she's only using one of her holes and not all 7 of them, you know?
Wherever those come from. After a T-800 zombie gets up after being shot twice, Tallahassee's like, 1 + 1 still equals 2, right?
Oh, yeah. That was a cool scene.
Yeah, and then they change double tap like on screen to like it goes up to non-a-tap or something like that for 9 shots. Madison, I'm really good at surviving. I'm literally alive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
she tells no lies, you know.
Tallahassee handing the Civil War bearded guy a mallet. Civil War general, you must know how to fight. And then the Civil War bearded guy, sure, poverty, sexism, social injustice. And that's when Tallahassee takes the mallet away from him, which is one of my favorite scenes because, yes, this guy's an idiot.
Yes, how he survived this long is. Well,
he's been in Babylon. He should be dead, which goes into our next line. Tallahassee, now from where I stand, there's only one thing we can do. And the Civil War bearded guy, group sex, right? No, we'll fight them. And then Tallahassee's like, you'll be the first to die, but I like your enthusiasm. And then Wichita tells him, you might die. And Columbus is like, thank you for your sacrifice.
Yeah, they're going to die.
And the funny thing is that Babylon has one rule, no group sex. And this guy literally goes straight to it.
Yeah, okay, like, group sex.
All right, movie review. Visually, the movie it's on par with the first one. The zombies still look great. I mean, they actually might look slightly better because I feel like they gooped them up. I mean, I've got a lot of trivia notes about it because I'm pretty sure that the same guy who does the makeup for this is also the one that did the, Bride of Chucky makeup, like the guy that's in the Chucky movies from then on out or whatever. Yeah, it's the same guy, also the one that did the makeup for the original Hocus Pocus. So it's that guy.
Okay.
But his whole thing was they had options. This is in the trivia, but they had options. They could either make them withered because it's 10 years on, like how The Walking Dead did, where they kind of shrunk down their like skin, made them kind of like mummified looking, or they could keep them just as goopy and like nasty and as they did in the first movie. And they're like, you know what? Walking Dead's doing the other thing. Let's just make them goopy.
Yeah.
So he said that if there was anybody who was a zombie in the movie, they were covered up in all kinds of slime and pus and everything else.
That's got to be fun. Well, and it makes sense too, because again, like you've mentioned, these are infected humans. So infection is gonna it's gonna make you goopy. It's gonna make you. They just got to be staying hydrated somehow. I just don't know where.
Well, they are hunting, so they are killing stuff and to eat, so they are surviving that way. Unlike the zombies in 28 Days Later.
Yeah, that's true.
But the weird thing is Tony Gardner refers to them as Walking Dead, and they're like the undead, and they're not. I mean, I don't think you have to shoot them in the head even in this movie. Like the T-800s have to be shot like 1,000 times everywhere. But
that's what's confusing is the T-800 finally did go out when he was shot in the head, but no one addresses whether or not if he had just been shot in the head the first time, would he have gone down immediately?
That's a valid point. Also, the T-800s evolving to have that much pain tolerance. They're borderline regular zombies at that point. They take too many shots to put down. But the regular zombies, they still go down with like regular. I mean, even the Hawkings, the smart ones, go down fairly quick. The one thing that I didn't like about this goes in the story a little bit. They don't really do much with the ninja versions of the zombies in this movie. They introduce them. They say that they're, they'll sneak up on you and they're silent and they're like in the shadows.
Oh, yeah.
But the only one that they ever meet is in the middle of the broad daylight, and it's the one that hops on the back of the truck. And even then, they say that's the Hawking instead of saying that's a ninja.
No, because the Hawking used a specific strategy to get himself into a place where, that would have made sense if it had been like in 28 Days Later when we're like, how did he access all those doors? Apparently he was a Hawking.
He would have been a Hawking, yeah.
Because he had a key card. He knew, oh, shit, I'm a zombie, but guess what works? This fucking key card. And if I turn my hand just this way and apply enough weight or pull or push or whatever, I can get through these doors and get to all these fucking people. So, and that was specifically to him eating the eyeball of another doctor.
It was actually a she, because remember they say clever girl.
Yes.
Referencing Jurassic Park.
Oh, God. Yeah. And she used the eyeball to get it scanned that was in her mouth to allow her access to that office, which was pretty impressive, actually.
Yeah. I mean, so assuming that was a ninja that sneaks up on Columbus when he's on top of the clown car or whatever it was he was standing on at the time, or maybe the RV.
It was RV.
The RV, yeah. I don't feel like they did enough with those, because they set them up as being like, before the T-800s, they're like the next rung down on the threat level. Like the Hawkings are scary, but like you can still hear them coming. The ninjas kind of just like out of nowhere and you're done, like you're walking through a place. So maybe if they make one in like 10 more years, because that's another thing we'll get into in trivia, they kind of want to do these every 10 years now.
Yeah.
If they do another one in 10 years, and Sony has no reason not to because of how much money this made, maybe the ninjas will make more of a presence in the next movie, because
possibly, and that could be real scary, because you're just there in silence and you think everything's safe, and all of a sudden, boom, zombie,
Yeah, because it doesn't grunt. It just it's even silent whenever it's kind of moving around, because it realizes it can sneak, versus the other ones.
Fucking sneak attack.
But going back to the visuals now, they did a much better job in this movie. Probably from that extra budget of making CGI or whatever it was to make the 10 years on apocalypse look even better. Like the White House looks very appropriately run down.
Oh, big time. Yeah, I was like, how did they pull this off?
Yeah, they got all the weeds out front, and then they've got even when they go to the mall, which is a nice throwback to both Dawns of the Dead. It looks like a rundown mall 10 years into the zombie apocalypse or something.
Do you have in the notes where they filmed?
I don't know if it's in there or not, to be honest with you. I don't remember seeing that.
Because obviously we've discussed, with my hubby on the show.
Oh, it's in Georgia. I take that back. It's still in Georgia. They went back there.
Okay. Did you know that in the original one they did film in L.A. for a little bit?
They had to, because they had palm trees and stuff. So unless they went to Florida, which nobody films down there, they would have had to went to L.A.
Yeah, there is a again, I'll mention this, and I know I've talked about this at least 2 or 3 times on the show, but there is a somewhat abandoned but still functioning mall in Nevada. It's in the Nevada-California line practically, and I think they had 3 stores. Now they're down to 2, and that one of the 2 is going to be closing at the end of this month. So they're going to only have 1 store left in this mall. It's still fucking open. But everything should, no food court, and nobody goes to it. And it's mostly just people on TikTok now just going and filming.
I've seen that on TikTok then, because I've seen the abandoned mall that everybody keeps going into or whatever.
And it's not even, I guess we can't call it abandoned because it's still a functioning mall, but it's like, why even be open for 1 store? That cannot be profitable in any way.
Yeah, well, I don't know. This is a whole other tangent, but I saw this one guy defending why they are not turning abandoned office buildings into rental spaces for people, because demand for rental spaces is so high right now, and rates are so high. And he goes in to describe, he's like, it's actually more profitable for us to file this as a loss and get the tax than to get a bunch of people in. It was so scummy the way he described it, and I'm like, dude, you were the reason that people hate landlords.
Okay.
He was so happy about it too. He's like, yeah, we'll never turn these into rentals, even though we're not making any money on this, because we can turn this in and get more tax money back than we can if we actually rented them. And I'm like, fuck you, dude.
God, that makes so much more sense. Now, the mall in Nevada was purchased for, in this, $4 million. That will barely buy you a fucking decent mansion in California.
Yeah.
They bought a whole ass mall. So it's not a loss because they're already bajillionaires. I don't know. Well, I'm sure upkeep on it. They have upkeep costs. But for the other millions of properties they probably own, yeah, they can count this as a loss as write-off. Okay, I'm not going to pretend that that's not smart because living in California, the one thing we're always looking for is what is counted as a loss that will help us with our fucking income taxes.
Well, I think that's everybody now. Since, our taxes get sent over to other countries.
I'm not saying it's okay for these bajillionaires. I am just saying that everybody given the opportunity will do it.
Yeah, if they would, I just think our tax structure is fucked beyond belief, and we need to really change it. So
yeah, it just takes a lot to. I feel like just in California alone, it takes a lot to own a property and to be able to maintain it. People will still complain. People will still damage your property, especially if it's a low income property. They don't give a shit.
Well, that's because of how the caps they put on some of those low income places. There's no reason if the landlord puts a bunch of money into it to try to fix it up, they can't get any. I mean, I will defend them in this. They won't ever get their money back because they're capped on what they can charge, like the renters. Which I mean, you can argue whatever you want to on that, but if you put a bunch of money into renovate a place, you have to account for that money somewhere. And if you're already just basically the place is barely making a profit. I mean, I'm not saying that they might be making a huge profit, in which case they should, do something. But if they're just barely making a profit, there's no reason to go that much in debt just to renovate. I mean, at all.
Exactly. So it is, I don't know. The whole situation is fucked. I think for everyone involved, rent is too fucking high, but also it's expensive to own a property and take care of it, especially to have somebody just literally shit on it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. If you own your own property and you have to actually pay for it and you're out all the maintenance for it, you have a whole different view about all that stuff. Yeah. It's like, this deck's falling apart and it's going to cost me $4,000 to fix. Yay.
What are you paying in rent? Not that much.
Yeah. Well, I don't know anymore. Some of the places are charging, way up there. But yeah, visually, getting back to the movie, they nailed the apocalyptic look. Now Babylon was fine. It actually looked like something out of The Walking Dead, which was kind of funny. Like one of those put together places that they like Alexandria that they're holed up in, or one of those. But the other stuff was just done on the road, so they really didn't even have to. I mean, just scenes of like woods and stuff. I mean, so they got pretty cheap on that stuff. They just had to really worry about the big settings,
I like how Graceland was all in rubble.
Yeah, so they didn't even have to go there. They're like, it's burned down. It's like they literally just posted up outside of some burned down building, put up a sign that said Graceland this way, stressed it and added all the aged look to the sign and said, oh, that's Graceland.
That had to be super affordable to do. Like that's good for the budget.
Yeah, because I mean, if you think about it, they went to way more towns in the first movie.
Yeah,
but they also went to towns that were just right into the apocalypse, so they didn't have to really do anything to make. They just had to maybe put some stuff in the streets, some rubble or something like that. They didn't really have to do a whole lot. The third movie, if they go to more populated areas again for whatever reason, they're going to be really far on at that point and really have to show, like, may even have to go the route of The Last of Us and show like buildings toppling over into other buildings, because of all the neglect and all that.
I just had an epiphany a little bit about the original Zombieland, where they found the Hummer. They found it literally. Now, I know places were technically falling apart, but the house that they found it at was definitely a shack of sorts. Like, it was not an amazing house before or after the apocalypse. It was like run down as fuck.
It looked like houses around here.
Okay.
Just saying.
I didn't want to say it. I wasn't going to be the one to say it, okay? But it just shows that is the most American thing ever. A nice-ass car. That really was their car. I don't believe for 1 second they were just parked there. It was just randomly parked there. They were trying to escape that shack. That's why their hands were on the steering wheel. But like you'll have a nice ass car and then you'll have a piece of shit house, you know?
Oh, and those guns were worth more than like four of those houses put together at least.
Exactly. So that was definitely, I think that was a really good like view of how we are in America, where our priorities lie, you know?
That's not wrong. Not wrong.
I wanted to say about the visuals, one thing that I noticed or didn't notice, and you can tell me your feelings on it. I didn't see as much CGI blood.
I didn't. Well, they don't really shoot. Well, I mean, I don't feel like they shoot quite as many as they did in the first movie. Mm-hmm. They burn a lot and run over a lot toward the end of it. And they smartly did it at night so you can cover up some of the digital effects with darkness, which is, I mean, honestly, that's how you save on a budget. I mean, you know, CGI looks shitty in like daylight because you got to light and you got to like figure up like, you know, where the sun's hitting and if it would like, you know, reflect the light and shadow and all that. If you do it at nighttime, all you have to account for is maybe some fire effects, like, you know, giving, you know, any kind of light on the subjects, but otherwise you can just cover them up. So they did save money that way. But yeah, on the scenes where they shot them, I don't feel like I saw as much CGI blood either.
Like not CGI droplets, you know how they kind of had that in the first film, definitely, or splatter, if you will. I didn't really see that. I think I saw more real effects because the only zombie I can remember that really got shot up close was the T8, you know, T800 that finally got shot in the head and then its head exploded when I was like, this is amazing. I love this.
Yeah.
That looked very realistic. So.
Yeah, I mean, altogether, I mean, I think the movie looks better than the first one. I mean, in a lot of ways. I mean, but it makes sense because they had a bigger budget. I mean, that budget could have also went to the stars. I mean, but I feel like the stars are more doing this for the fun of it now. I mean, because all of them are, you know, at least Academy Award nominees, if not winners. I mean, they could demand their price if they really want to be douchebags and say, no, I'm not coming back unless you pay me blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, well, we can't afford that. And it's like, well, I guess you're not making a movie then, are you? You know, they could be that way about it. But they're all like, yeah, these are fun. Let's do them.
They probably had a really good time with the first one. So they were like, fuck yeah, when the second one came around.
Well, and then they had a lot of fun on the second one because, especially with the addition of Zoe Deutsch, they were all cracking up at her. Like they thought she was a great addition to the cast.
That's kind of cool.
Story, again, it's kind of a small story. It's just like it's almost like a copy of the first one in a way. They're going to save, in this case, Little Rock by herself versus you know, Wichita and her. But I mean, it's, you know, but it gives them opportunity to meet other people along the way, and they expand the universe out a little bit and show other survivors and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Little Rock disappearing on her own is such a stupid teenager thing to do. You always think you're safe. You don't think anything's going to happen to you, but she really left her sister high and dry. Like she left her sister to fucking die.
She did. Yeah. And I think that's my biggest issue with the story in this movie. Well, there's two main things. I really feel like the fear commitment between Wichita and Columbus is so manufactured at the beginning of it that, I mean, just to get them split apart again, that it takes me out of the movie a little bit. I mean, because the way they ended part one and the way that they spend part of the first part of part two, there's no reason why she would reacted that violently to him. I feel like they've been together 10 years now. Mm-hmm. She could easily say, listen, you know, I'm not cool with that. Please stop, you know, or something. They would have had more of a discussion. And it, now, if you want to make the argument like, well, he's done this several times to her and she's just fed up with it at this point, fine, but they don't show that.
Yeah. And not only that, ma'am, what are your options? What are your options? Like, they're literally talking about Little Rock's options, and he's like, "What, you want to date a zombie?"
Yeah, well, I mean, there's that, but there's but I think if you want to defend that to any degree, I'll give them this. I'll play devil's advocate. she's making the argument, especially because she mentions it in the movie with Madison. It's like, well, we're only together because we were the only people of appropriate age that were, met up, and kind of throwing it back that that's the reason they really hooked up, because he threw that as, well, she's my age and, and she's female, I'm a guy. And she's like, well, that describes us. And that's kind that was kind of a jab, but at the same time, it's like, is that true, or is there more of a connection between them? That they were kind of going that route with it, and there is a connection between them. They do like one another. But the other defense I would have against that is I feel like if they would have just showed that she, instead of her just blowing up instantly and just leaving again, it's like you've got this relationship with him, you like him, you love him at this point, or you wouldn't still be with him. I mean, regardless of the sex or whatever, they obviously care about each other in more of a married way. They're like a married couple at the beginning of it. I just don't like how they split them apart the way they did. And she's like, well, I decided I want to come back to you. It's like, that's kind of a shitty thing to say to him at that point. It's like, well, I thought about it, and you're not the worst thing about this. It's like, what the fuck is that kind of comment?
It seems like, well, it kind of goes in line with kind of the person she was.
She was. That's the key point.
Was, but sometimes that shit is still there. I'm not defending her. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm thinking that maybe she wasn't using her proper train of thought at the time. And realized some shit. And then she also got herself into a fucking pickle. Now, she was trying to do the right thing, and I don't know how true it was or not when she came looking for the guns. I don't know if she was going to tell them or not. She kind of, infers a little bit later, oh, I came back for you, but in a way she did. It looks like
she's just literally come back to get guns to go after Little Rock.
Exactly. So it's hard to know with this one. She's a con artist most of her life, so maybe she's running the biggest con of her life.
But so I don't like that because it feels like a regression of the character. And I'm not saying, and I know people out there, it's like, well, stuff like that happens. It's like, look at Luke Skywalker and, Return or whatever, the Last Jedi or whatever. And it's like, he regressed, and it's like, obviously went from the hero to whatever. And it's like, that's how you ruin a franchise whenever you take one of your heroic characters and you make them, and Disney's learning this. They're learning the hard way, and they deserve it. They deserve to go out of business because, you can make a hero go into a dark place, but they still need to show some fucking heroics.
Oh, yeah.
Something about them. And there was nothing about Luke Skywalker in that movie that was heroic. Even at the end, whenever he comes back and sacrifices his hologram to save them, it's too little too late, and there's nothing really heroic about it because he's not even there on the battlefield. So fuck them. I'm not giving them any credit for that. Rian Johnson, go fuck yourself and take a glass onion and go fuck yourself in the ass. And the same thing about how they did Wichita at the beginning of this. They didn't do it as bad. And they bring her back throughout the movie. That's the one thing I'll give them, because as she's dealing with the fact that she's pissed off that he got with Madison, she grows to actually like Madison. You can see it, throughout the course of the movie. And she starts to forgive him because she realizes she was the problem in that situation.
Yeah.
So they do redeem her. They did good writing on that part. I just wished they hadn't introduced this fake problem at the beginning just so they could round her back to where she was at the end.
Yeah, I do. Because I don't know, I don't know what other way. There's definitely other ways it could have been brought about, but it could have just been Little Rock.
If they just had Little Rock leaving, that would have been all they needed. They didn't have to split, because she wanted to go. If she would have took the beast, and just drove it away, and they're like, oh fuck, we've got it. Now they wouldn't have been able to bring Madison in, but they could have. They could have had Madison. They could have found Madison along the way, and then that would have introduced this love triangle if they wanted to go that route. That would have been interesting. Now it would have made it more scummy on Columbus's part if he would have played into that, because obviously you got the love of your life. If this girl tempts you whatsoever, what does that say about you?
Yeah.
But the way they did it was just a little too much at the beginning.
I will justify it a little bit, because here we have Wichita making a stupid mistake. I think we can all agree that it was the dumb thing, and it made the movie kind of look a little goofy at first. However, I do like it because she gets a taste of her own medicine because her sister fucking does it to her. And what can she say? What can she even say to her sister about that? Look at you. You run from your fucking problems. I was running from you.
That's true.
So, I mean, I do, and she did, like, the look on Wichita's face when she saw that her sister and that dude were gone was pure and utter, oh my fucking God, like, so many emotions all at once, utter shock, anger, fear, because, like, what's going to happen to her with this fucking loser-ass guy that ain't going to protect her,
Yep.
So I think that's why it works. Again, I'm not saying it's the best, but they did a good job of making it work, even though it's not very likable.
Well, like I said, I agree with everything you just said, and I do think that the way that they integrate her back into the love triangle at that point, and how that it works out better in the long run. I mean, it works out better in the sense that Columbus is a little bit blameless in the situation, given what happened to him.
Yeah,
and she realizes, for sure that despite the fact that maybe there is more people out there, she really has found the one that works for her. It by the end they redeem it. It's just at the beginning it's just kind of like, really, guys, like we got to do this, I mean, just to get them apart. Speaking of Little Rock, I feel like I don't know if Abigail Breslin was filming something else during the timing of this, because I didn't see anything about it but it feels like they came up with a reason to get her out of the movie for the majority of it.
Yeah, because holy fuck, she was hardly in this movie.
Yeah, she's barely in it. And something that I didn't notice that is in the trivia notes, the first Tallahassee, or Woody Harrelson, Jesse Eisenberg, and Emma Stone have their names all before the credits. Abigail Breslin's is after the credits, like, where it says Zombieland Double Tap.
Yeah.
It's interesting that hers is separated from the rest of them.
Huh. I'm wondering, I'm looking right now to see if I see anything. I see movies like a year or two after this, but I don't really see.
If they come out a year or two after, that means they were being in production and filmed at the time of this movie. So possibly, I mean,
yeah, but this one's 2019, so you would think that it was being filmed 2017-ish.
Well, yeah, that's true.
2018. She was in a production called Yamasong in 2017, March of something. I've never heard of that. Let me see what else. Another movie called Freak Show in 2017. These are the only things, not even anything in 2018. So it's kind of weird.
I mean, and it could just be part of the story, but I feel like it's kind of shrifting her a little bit to have her, it's like, oh, come on back. And it's like, by the way, we're going to have you in maybe 10% of the movie, 20% at most. Have a good day, like. Now, if they paid her, commiserate to the other ones, then fine. It's like she gets a paycheck, she doesn't have to work. But,
exactly.
But it's one of those things where it's like, and the other thing is too, this gets into acting slightly. She's still the weakest of the cast, the main
yes.
four. And I don't know, and I think it's because they didn't really give her anything to work off of. Because what does she do in the movie? She's a petulant teenager. Okay. That's one note acting. She's getting high with Berkeley.
Yeah.
That's pretty one note. Most people just play the high, character, like, oh man, really? And then at the end of it, the end's where she kind of gets like more to do. Like, I mean, where she's like, you're a poser, dude. Like, everybody fucking knows about, Bob Dylan, like, who the fuck do you think you are? Like, that's where you actually see her get to act, is at the end of the movie. So I mean, it's like, for most of the rest of the movie, she's like a one note thing. And then like at the end, she finally has a mix of emotions to kind of make her more rounded as a character.
Yeah. It says that Zombieland 2 was started filming in January of 2019 and was done March of 2019. That's pretty fast.
That is pretty fast. And like I said, if that is the case, and then they got the movie out, which is even crazier, by the end of 2019, September, I believe, when it came out, then that means that she could have been filming those things that came out 2 or 3 years later during the filming of this.
Yeah.
Because 2020 shut down everything. So
I mean,
I
absolutely.
I was also going to say story wise, and I want your opinion on this. I personally like it, but there is so many people out there that throw the Albuquerque and Flagstaff stuff in there as being their most hated part of this movie because they say it's too cartoony. I can see that to a degree because they're so exaggerated. They're like exaggerated versions of Tallahassee and Columbus, but it is so funny and it creates such a tension-filled scene when the two of them turn in the T-800s that I don't understand why people hate on it as bad as they do. Like it's the one part of the movie that everybody hates. They don't like. I personally dislike Berkeley. Like I think I
can't stand him.
Not the actor, but just like he annoys the shit out of me the entire time he's in, and he's supposed to. So,
he's supposed to. He does a good job. Yeah.
Yeah. But like they really hate Albuquerque for one. Like they just think that he's just like, it's like he's Yosemite Sam is what I've heard people say, when he walks into the movie.
I don't know. I thought they were hilarious. I thought that is it Albuquerque?
The one that's like Tallahassee is Albuquerque.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought he was way more of an asshole.
It makes you love Tallahassee better to see that he has grown to be, more of a people person than, he might have been otherwise.
And then the other one was just too nice. He was just like Columbus, and he was trying to be, like, you could tell he was trying to be polite. And it's funny because he had a better relationship with Albuquerque.
He had a better relationship. That's the other thing too, is it shows the dysfunction between Tallahassee and Columbus because they've been together just as long or longer than Albuquerque and Flagstaff, but at the same time, they still don't trust. I mean, like Tallahassee doesn't trust Columbus enough to like do any of the stuff that Flagstaff is doing. And he doesn't compliment him on his rules or anything like that. He's like, this guy's a genius, That's what Albuquerque's doing in Flagstaff. He's like, listen to this stuff. These commandments, like, they're awesome. Like, listen to this one,
No, I thought they were hilarious. Now, it was very Scooby-Doo when they had turned to T-800s, and you see all this stuff going on in one room. My favorite scene was when he was like, don't hit, or don't swing. And then he's like, swing, and fucking Tallahassee
he still ends
swings.
up hitting Columbus.
Yes. It worked. It was so fun. I thought it was hilarious. I feel like that's something that really could happen. Like it was intense, but it was also funny at the same time. It was entertaining is what it was.
I also liked the interaction between the two of them. I thought this should have been in the quotes, but they didn't have it listed. The whole back and forth between Tallahassee and Albuquerque about where they get to park their cars, if you understand what I'm saying.
That was so funny.
And then Columbus is like, I don't think they're talking about parking cars. And Wichita's like, oh, really? You don't? I mean, the writing is still whip smart, like razor sharp writing. Like it's just, but it's the one part of the movie that I have seen the most complaints about, and I just wanted to bring it up. I personally like that scene. I do. I don't. I mean, I
didn't have any issues with it, and I don't know why people would. You're watching a zomcom, rom-drom, if you will.